How you doing? This is Craig Hannigan, and this blog is Recruitment 101. It's a little bit of recruitment training designed for an entry-level recruiter or a junior-level recruiter that's looking for a little bit of an edge on their competitors. The first thing that I want to say, which to me is one of the most important and valuable things in recruitment, is to always make sure that you are yourself and that you be yourself. The reason why is I've seen training in the past where people say, just pretend like you know what you're talking about, act as if, those type of things. And there is a little bit of merit to that, but what I've found from my experience is that people are able to see when somebody's being genuine. And there's no problem at all in calling somebody up and saying, hello, how are you? My name's Craig, I'm a recruiter. I came across your resume. I think you look great for this job opportunity. I'm a little bit new to recruitment though, and I'm not 100% sure. Let me read you some of the key points from this job description and let me know if you feel like you're a fit. In most cases, people are more than happy to listen to a job description, and most recruiters learn the most from the candidates. Candidates love to talk about themselves. Candidates love to talk about their experiences, and if you're talking to a candidate and listening to that while you have the job description in front of you, you're going to be much more able to understand it for the next person that you talk to. And the more candidates that you talk to and the more times you have this conversation, sooner or later you're going to become very familiar with the job description and very comfortable representing it, and you'll no longer have to say that you're a junior recruiter. You'll sound like a pro, and it'll happen quickly. The next thing that I would say is a very beginner mistake is people talk too much. They try to be too salesy. They try to sell people on the opportunity, on the company, on this, on that. And in real life, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you should really make sure that you use them proportionately. Somebody who is a half talker normally bills twice as much money. People want to hear themselves talk, and if you're over talking them and overselling them, they're going to go on the defensive and they're going to clam up. You need to let them talk themselves. The next thing is, if you're only talking half as much as you normally do, then when you do talk, you have to make sure that everything that you're saying is very efficient and very effective. So what you want to do is, in order to get them to talk and in order to get information out of them, you have to ask them what's called open questions or launching questions. You don't want to ask them close-ended questions. So for example, a lot of recruiters, when they call somebody, they'll say, hey, how are you? This is Craig. Thanks for picking up the phone. Did I catch you at a good time? And that's a close-ended question that's very simple for a candidate to end with the word no. Did I catch you at a good time? No, you didn't. Okay. Sorry. Is there a better time to call you back? No. Okay, goodbye. And now you've just lost that opportunity. So you want to ask launching questions. So you want to replace words like do with who. You want to replace words like can with what. So, do you know anybody who would be a good fit for this job? It's easy for somebody to say, nope, I don't. But if you say to them, who do you know who would be a good fit for this position? It's more difficult for them to say, actually, I don't know anybody. And if you're using those launching questions, you have a better probability of them actually giving you a name. The other thing is, I will say though, is if you catch yourself doing closed-ended questions, and you can always try to pick up the pieces. So if I say, do you know anybody who would be a good fit for this position, or can you refer me to somebody who would be a good fit for this position? And if they simply say no, well then at that point you can say something like, where would be a good place to look for candidates for this role? What are some good tools that maybe I could use to find people similar to yourself? And after you ask that question, you shut up and you let them speak. You don't say, but if you don't know anybody, that's okay. You always ask the launching question and then shut your mouth. The next thing that I would say is you should also understand what sociolinguistics is, and that's the study of languages' effect on society. And what that means is there's certain words that create an emotional response from human beings. And one of those words, which is one of my favorite, is help. People by nature want to help people. So if I call somebody up and I'm talking to them and if I say, you know, I'd really appreciate it if you could help me out. Is there anyone who I could network with for a position like this? Then you're replacing the word referral actually with network, and then you're also asking for their help. So once again, replacement words are, you're never going to sell something, you're going to network. You're never a recruiter, you're connecting. And you're not asking them for a referral, you're asking them for some guidance. So if I say to somebody, you know, could you give me some guidance on where I could network for a position like this, you're much more likely to get a positive response from them. Another great thing to do is, you know, instead of saying, who do you know that I can call about this job, who do you recommend that I could speak with? I could really use your help. I appreciate it. People are going to be a lot more open to speaking to you. So now that you've got a better feeling on how to talk to people, be selective with your words, be careful with the way that you talk to people, the next thing that I'm going to say is, a recruiter's biggest issue is they have to be multitaskers. You're looking for resumes, you're dealing with account managers, you're talking to candidates, you're setting up interviews, you're doing 1,000 things at once. So it's very easy to become distracted. And what ends up happening is if you try to do too many things at one time, you're doing multiple tasks poorly, rather than doing one task efficiently. So what it's best to do is set yourself up with a schedule and finish tasks from beginning to end. What I mean by that is, if I know today I have a couple of jobs that I need to look through my database for, I don't want to be fielding calls, making calls, sending emails, talking to a friend, doing this, doing that. What I'm going to say to myself is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go through every single resume in this database until I'm finished. And then when I'm finished with that, I'm going to move on to my next task. If you're able to do that, you will find that you're going to be able to reach a much higher level of efficiency and you're going to get much more work done. So rather than doing multiple little tasks at a time, you want to chunk out sets of time to finish and complete tasks and then move on to the next one. And what I mean by that is, what you need to do then is to plan to succeed. So every single day before somebody leaves, what you should do is you should sit down and you should write down your plan for the next day. So if you say to yourself, all right, I've got 3 jobs that I need to get coverage on. I'm going to write down these jobs. Okay. I'm gonna search Monster for these jobs first, then I'm gonna search Career Builder. After that, I'm gonna go in my database. I've gotta set up a couple of interviews, so on and so forth. So what you do is every single day before you leave, you write down everything that you know you have to do the next morning. What that's going to do is that's going to give you a little bit of focus. It's also going to help you get rid of that wasted hour in the morning. Because what most people do is they come to work, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever time they have to get to work. They sit down, they take a sip of their coffee, they turn on their computer, they move some stuff around. It's like Office Space. They zone out for an hour. And that hour equals 5 hours a week or 20 hours a month, which realistically you're losing a half a week each month just by wasting that 1 hour. So if you can find a way to be able to come to work and hit the ground running, you'll find that your new time management skills are giving you much more effective work time during your month. So the first thing is write out a schedule, a list of tasks at the end of every single day. The next thing is make sure you have everything you need. If you're going to need a pen, a paper, a pad, somebody's resume, get everything, plan to succeed, have it ready so you can hit the ground running. Another good tip is create a work environment that's conducive for success. So if you find that it's difficult for you to not get distracted by Facebook, well then don't open it up on your computer unless you're using it for work purposes only. If you've got somebody who's sending you a million text messages, shut off your cell phone or tell them not to do it. Don't, if your work uses an instant messenger program, don't give your screen name out to your friends. All of these things that you try to do to make your life fun and happy and exciting and all of this stuff, that's all great, but there's a time and place for everything. And when you're at work, you should be geared towards success. So you want to be able to make sure that you're giving yourself the least amount of distractions as possible. The next thing that I would say is you need to regroup from a distraction quickly, meaning that certain things are going to happen. If I say to myself, I'm going to go through every resume in Monster for the next hour for these jobs I have, and my phone rings, well then obviously I need to pick up the phone. So if the phone rings, if it's a candidate, if it's somebody for the job, somebody calling back, that's great. Talk to them, get their information, hopefully you get a submission out of it, but after that, get back to work. Don't allow yourself to get into that mode where you're trying to figure out what to do. You should have your roadmap and your plan for success and make sure that you stick to it. Also, I would factor in planned breaks. Everybody needs some sort of break. You can't just blast through the day at 100% for 10 hours straight, because people are going to burn out. So you know what, if you know you're going on lunch, maybe if you're taking a half an hour for lunch or whatever your company allows, take a 10-minute break, but plan it. I'm going to work for 2 hours, I'm going to finish this task, I'm going to take a 10-minute break, maybe walk downstairs, stretch my legs, go get a drink of water, whatever it is, but I'll be back in 10 minutes and I'm going to now work again for another 2 hours. If you're doing that, then you can still get your breaks in and yet still get your tasks complete, rather than taking a break and doing this and doing that and just being a hodgepodge of everything. I guess the last thing that I would say to creating your schedule is obviously make sure that you prioritize. If you know that you've got a deal to close and that's what you're going to do first thing in the morning, you're expecting an offer and you're going to close the deal, well then obviously you're not going to play around in your database for an hour, you're going to close your deal. And if you've got a couple of people that you want to submit to a job, but you want to wait until their resumes, whatever it might be, obviously take care of the submissions, the deals, setting up interviews. All of those things are what have you closest to the money. So that's what you need to focus on first, and then you can get to the other tasks that you have listed on your plan for success. So now that you know what you're doing and you know how to talk to people correctly, the next thing that you need to do, and this is something that's very, very important, is you need to make sure that you make every single call count. When you're on the phone with somebody, it's an opportunity that's either gained or an opportunity that's lost. Every single person that you talk to, you should be able to gain something from. Whether that is a submission, a referral, a job lead, some industry advice, some information on the job, whatever it is, if you don't gain something by a phone call that you've made, then you've wasted your time. So you have to make sure that you're an efficient worker. So you always have to ask them, who you can network with, who's hiring in your company, what departments you should be calling into, all of those different things. So like I said, you have to either get a lead, a submission, a referral, or something out of the call, or you've wasted time. Another big issue that I see people do is they underutilize their resources. So a lot of people will just sit and look through their resume all day long, but they're not in LinkedIn, or they're not using networking groups, they're not using social media, they're not making YouTube videos. Whatever it is, you have to make sure that you're going above and beyond. You need to make sure that you're using LinkedIn, Monster, Career Builder, every single job board that you have available to you, every single networking group that you can think of. You have to make sure that you're talking to people, that you're on LinkedIn, that you're creating LinkedIn groups, that you're posting jobs wherever you're allowed to post jobs, that you're posting jobs on LinkedIn groups, and doing every single thing. And what a good idea to do is sit down and think of every single resource that you have and create a checklist for yourself. And then what you can do is you can create different rows for the different jobs that you're working on. So if I know that I'm working on 5 or 6 jobs, I'll write them next to my checklist, and then throughout the week I can see, okay, for this job I've already gone on Monster, I've already gone on Career Builder, I've already gone on LinkedIn, I've already looked through the database, I already created a group and joined grouped and posted it and grouped and advertised it on Craigslist and asked for referrals and so on and so forth, so that then maybe you move on to the next job, and then you move on to the next job. And then if you find that you've used all of your resources for every single one of the jobs that you're working on, you can either do it all over again and see if you get a better result, or you can start using your mind and think of a creative solution for your problem. Because at the end of the day, saying I've done everything, this job's too hard, I can't find somebody, is an unacceptable answer. You need to be able to find candidates for the job. And if you've run out of things that you know of, then you need to think of new ways to find people. You can't just give up on a job. Another thing that's very underutilized is old school recruitment methods. The first thing I would say is you need to just pick up the phone. You have to smile and dial, call as many people as you possibly can. In this age of internet recruitment, people make less and less calls, and candidates are answering less and less emails. So in order for you to be successful, you need to reach people at work. And if they're not, if they're not answering their cell phone, well, then you're going to have to call them at their desk. And if they have somebody screening their calls, well, then you're going to have to call them before the hours of their secretary or administrative assistant. If that person has an administrative assistant that works between 9 and 5, and he's not answering his cell phone, and you can't get through his assistant at work, well, then you need to come into work at 8 o'clock and call and try to reach him before that person gets in. Or you need to stay until 7 o'clock and try to reach them there. You can also send them an email on LinkedIn. You can send them an in-mail if you have that available. Send them a regular email. Connect with them on Facebook. Do whatever you need to do, but if you have somebody that looks good for that job, you can't just be satisfied with the fact that you sent them an email. It's your responsibility to get them on the phone no matter how you do it. The next thing that I would say is that this is a numbers game. If you found that if you're making 50 calls a day, that's giving you 5 submissions a week, and that out of those 5 submissions a week, maybe you're making 1 deal a day or 1 deal a month, well, then you need to say, in order for me to survive, if you want to make 2 deals a month, then you have to double your numbers. Make 100 calls a day. Make sure you're getting 2 submissions a day. Make sure you're sending out 10 resumes a week, or whatever your situation is at work. You have to understand that the more calls that you make, the more emails that you send, the more activity that you have, the more candidates that you'll find, the more submissions that you get, the more interviews that will turn into, and the more deals you'll get out of your interviews. So keep track of your numbers however you want to do it, and always try to beat those numbers. The more activity you have, the more money you're going to make in the end. The next thing is there's 2 different types of recruitment, and there's a lot of different schools of thought on this. There's both proactive and reactive recruitment. The first thing I would say is proactive recruitment is things like building up pipelines. You're basically creating an inventory of candidates that you feel are most likely to be the type of people who your client base are going to be looking for. That's fine and dandy, especially if you have those great superstar placeable candidates. You really want, maybe I don't have something for this person today, but they're wonderful. I'm gonna put a note in my database, I'm gonna put them in a file on my desk or in my email or however, but I'm gonna keep track of these star candidates in my profile inventory of candidates. But you also need to be able to work as reactive, and a lot of people believe that the person who reacts the quickest is the one who's going to do the deal. So if somebody gets me a hot job and I hand it to one of my recruiters, I need him to react fast. I need to make sure that not only is he reacting quickly to my priority, but he's producing quickly as well. And you'll see that when you're working as a reactive candidate, that's how you can fill up your pipelines of proactive candidates. Maybe you act it fast, you talk to a guy who looks perfect, not quite right, all right, but I'm going to put him here, save him for later. And then once you start becoming good at that, you'll have a good network of people in your pipeline, and then you'll also be able to understand the importance of producing quickly. So the last thing that I'm going to say is it's very important to manage every single step of the process. So if you're making all of the calls, and if you're increasing your activity, if you're saying all of the right things, if you're utilizing all of your resources, another important thing is to make sure that when you talk to them, you manage every step from submission. If I'm going to submit a person's resume, I'm not going to give them to my client unless I know how much they're making, what they're looking to make, why they're looking to leave, if they have any surprises, if they have any vacations. If there's any applicable information that your hiring manager is going to want to know, I make sure that I get all of that information up front from my candidate, and I also start setting their expectations up front as far as things like salary and level and title and all of those things. I'm not interested in wasting my time, and I'm not going to send somebody through the process if their goals aren't in line with my client's goals. When I have an interview for a candidate, I make sure that they're prepared. I've set up my video blogs, I send them interview tips, I make sure that they know how to interview well. I also pre-close them from the beginning on the opportunity. I let them know how much the client is looking to hire. I find out how much they're willing to take. And then I guess the last thing that I do is, even through the process after they resign, I may help them out with that, give them tips on that. I don't like to think of our relationship as being over after the person starts. I try to maintain that relationship because this is a relationship business. I know that if I'm genuine, I know that if I treat people ethically, and if I'm an honest person, then return business is going to come back to me, and that's something that you need to focus on. And that's the way that you're going to be able to forge relationships in this industry. And if you work for a place that is only pushing numbers and doesn't care about the people that you're placing, then maybe you should think about leaving that place. You have to understand that on any given day, one deal is not as important to me as a person's career choice that could affect the rest of their lives. And it's not your responsibility to push somebody into something if it's not the right career move for them. It's a very fulfilling opportunity for us to be able to give somebody the ability to provide for their families, especially in a market and an economy such as the one that we are right now. So, take that responsibility seriously, work ethically, and you'll be very successful in this industry. I hope some of the things that I said helped you out. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you see me out there, all right? Take care.